Hello, you are welcome once again to BECE Mastery, where real life lessons meet exam excellence. Once again, we are going to continue solving of past questions. And in this episode, we are looking at BECE 2023 Paper 2, question number 6. Right. So let's go straight to question number 6 and see how best we can answer question number 6. Now, with question number 6, we have a graph work, transformation, or say rigid motion. Using a scale of 2 centimeters to 2 units on both axes, draw on the graph sheet two perpendicular axes OX and OY for the interval -10 through to 10 on the x-axis, and then y-axis we have from -10 to +10 as well. And on the same graph sheet, we want to draw the quadrilateral ABCD with vertices given as A, B, C, and D. We also want to do the image A1, B1, C1, and D1 of the quadrilateral ABC and the translation by a vector given -5, 2 or -5, -2, where A is going to map A1, B map B2, C map C1, C map C1, D maps D1. Then again, we'll look at the image under the reflection y-axis, where we are going to consider the first quadrilateral ABC to map A2, B2, C2, and D2. Then we are asked to find or to know or to identify the type of quadrilateral that is going to be A, B, C, and D. Then we find the gradient of the point to A2 and then B1. That is the line joining A2 and B1. So let's first go ahead and look at our graph. So we have to get our graph and then we draw our x and y axis. And according to the question, we have to use the scale of 2 centimeters to 2 units. So you can see from my x-axis, from the origin here, which is 0, I have 2 centimeters. Then I locate my 2 units. Then from 2 centimeters again, I have my 4, 6, 8, and 10. The same thing applies to the negative side. Then on the y-axis, we are supposed to do also the same scale of 2 centimeters to 2 units. And we know on our graph sheet, from one thick line to another thick line represent 2 centimeters. You know that already. And so if we are dealing with 2 units, then it means our interval is going to be 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So the same thing we run through the y-axis and then the negative y-axis as well. So we are done with the A part. So A part says we should draw the x and y axis and label it as such with the interval given. Now the B part says on the same graph sheet, we should draw the quadrilateral A, which is 2, 4. We should plot the point A, B, C, D, okay, which is 2, 4. So I'm going to locate 2 on the x-axis, 2 on the x-axis, and 4 on the y-axis. So the point is going to be located here. All right. Then I will label it as A, which is 2, 4. Then I'm going to do the point B, which is 2, 8. 2 on the x-axis, 8 on the y-axis. So they will meet somewhere here. And that also, I label it as such as B2. So the same thing I'll do for C, which is 8, 8. So I'm going to have it here. And then D, which is 8, 4. I'm going to have it here and label it as such. Now I can join these 4 points together to form my quadrilateral ABCD with my ruler. Right. So I've gotten my first quadrilateral. My next question is to draw the image A1, B1, C1, and D1 using translation vector -5, -2. So what it means is that I'm going to connect A to A1, B to B1, C to C1, and D to D1. And what it means is that if I pick A will move on the x-axis -5 times, and then on the y-axis I move -2. And so you can see that right from A, because our scale is 2 centimeters to 2 units, for every movement of 1, I can move, let's say, 1 here, and then move 2 here, move 3 here, move 4 here, and then move 5 here on the x-axis. And because we are talking about negative movement, it means we move backwards. If it is positive, we move forward. So take note of that. And now that we've moved up to the fifth point, on the y-axis, we are moving downwards. The negative means we have to go down because the negative go this direction. So I'll move also 2.1 and then 2. So my point will come here as my image. You see that? Good. So we've gotten our point, and then we can label it A1, -3, 2. I'll do the same thing for B. Also move 1, backwards 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and we move downwards 1, 2, and then we get our image point as such. And so there also we label our B1, and the point there is -3, 6. So we'll do the same thing for C, okay, and that will move like this, and then we do the same thing for D, and that will move as such. Okay, we join the 4 points to form our rectangle or our quadrilateral. Then the next is to do the point 3. That's question number 3. The image of A2, B2, C2, and D2 under the reflection. And so we are going to use y-axis as our reflection line. And so with the point A, I have to look at this is my y-axis. So the mirror is here. And so the distance from the point A to the mirror line should be the same distance to the image. And so I can have it like this and label it -2, 4. Do the same thing for B. Looking at B, where B is here. And again, I move the distance and I have this. And I label it B2. Then C, look at where C is. The distance from C to the mirror line is let's say I move 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I must move the same thing 1, 2, 3, 4. So it will be somewhere there, which will be the C, and I label it nicely. Okay, so we are almost done. Now we do the same thing for D, and then we move the D and we label it. We join the 4 points to get our image. And so that answers the first part of the question. Now the C part of the question says, what type of quadrilateral is ABCD? I'm sure that is obvious as a rectangle because you can see that opposite sides are equal, angles are vertical. I mean, vertical meeting horizontal will give you 90 degrees, so that makes it a rectangle. Our next question says we should find the gradient between the point A2 and our A2 from the question. A2 represents -2, 4. Can you see that? That's where our A2 is. And then our B1 also is, where's our B1? B1 is here. Okay, so that point is -3 and then 6. And so to find our gradient, we know to find gradient, we use the formula. So more or less, we are finding the gradient between these two lines, these 2 points. So that is the line we are finding its gradient. And as it stands, because it's slanted towards the negative side, we'll say the gradient is negative. I mean, the gradient is going to be negative. And so we know the formula to be y2 minus y1 all over x2 also minus x1. Now, what is our y2 from the question? If I call this y2, I'll call this y1. The same thing applies to x1. I could do other way around and I'll get the same answer. And so y2, I'll call it 6 and y1 is 4. Then all divided by x2 is -3 and x1 is -2. And so when I simplify that, I'm going to have the numerator giving me 2. Denominator is going to be this minus here will make it plus. If you're going to have -3 plus 2, and that will give us -1. So therefore, our gradient becomes -2. And so that answers the question for the whole question number 6. All right. I'm sure this has really helped you to do your revision on transformation. Thanks so much for watching.